call out their strengths and help them succeed. She is an asset to our school, and we feel she embodies the strengths and values of our community. We are pleased to recognize Grace Siebold as this year's Granville Award recipient of the You Make a Difference Award. And just so everyone's aware, Grace is actually an employee of CTEC, who is allocated to Granville to run our financial literacy and other programs in our school district, now including DECA, which is growing and growing every single year. So she's done a fantastic job. I say she's actually an employee of CTEC, but she's a Blue Ace. So thank you, Grace. Yes. Our next award winner is the Leaders for Learning Award. This award was created by the Licking County Foundation in 1993 to promote excellence in public education and honor exemplary teachers in our county. Since then, 408 Licking County teachers have been recognized as Leaders for Learning. This year's recipient was selected by her principal, Tracy Lees. An excerpt from the nomination states that this is an educator who is a true professional, who is knowledgeable, personable, confident, and highly talented, and it's our great fortune to have her as a member of the GIS family. It should be noted that Jen Glazier is keenly dedicated and resolute in understanding and responding to the diverse climate that exists in our education today. She's constantly reflecting upon and refining her daily practices and refuses to let any obstacle or challenge get in her way. Her devotion, intelligence, and compassion inspire everyone who work with her and those in her presence and are encouraged to achieve their best. We are pleased to recognize Jen Glazier as our Granville Award recipient. There she is. So one of the nice things that the Licking County Foundation does is they come to the school and they surprise the teacher. So we surprised her twice. How does that work?
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun because they brought this banner, and right when we surprised her, one of the gentlemen flipped it out, perfect timing. He couldn't replicate that again. It was just excellent, and the kids loved it. They all just started cheering for our staff members. So it was a great event. So thank you very much and congratulations. Okay, next, where are our wrestlers? Here we go. Granville's wrestling summary for this year. I'm going to mention the 4 students that were either participating in the state summer or state meet or were alternates. So this season, Nash Finley was crowned district champion, becoming only the 7th Blue Ace in school history to achieve this feat. This was Nash's first trip to the state competition. On the season, he had a record of 23-10 with 17 pins. He was a league champion as well as a medalist in the prestigious 50-team Medina Invitational. Congratulations, Nash. Wait there and I'll bring you all up at once. Okay, good job. Peyton Costa earned his 3rd trip to the state tournament. Peyton is only one of 4 wrestlers in Granville history to make it to state 3 times. Peyton is, let's see, I just said that. Peyton's season record was 23-9 with 19 pins, and Peyton was also a medalist this season at the prestigious 48-team Top Gun tournament. Ian Rutherford, whose dad wants me to call a 2-hour delay, placed 8th at the state tournament, earning a spot on the podium. Ian becomes the 8th Blue Ace in school history to place at the state tournament. Ian's record was 41-16 with 32 pins. Ian led his team with both wins and pins. Ian was crowned tournament champion this season 3 times at the Canal Winchester, Highland, and sectionals. He was also a medalist at the prestigious 48-team Top Gun, as well as a district finalist. Congratulations, Ian. And finally, Connor Jude was a state alternate placing 5th at districts. Connor finished the season strong, taking 2nd at league, 3rd at sectionals, and 5th at districts. Congratulations to our wrestlers who represented the Blue Aces this year at the state tournament. Come on up. Hey, congratulations. All right.
Are we looking at Mr. Burnett?
All of them. All right, Coach Bergeron, who are your assistants and your feeder assistants, the JV team, your coaching staff?
Oh, the coaching staff?
Yeah.
So we had John Ramirez, Robbie Swords, and Christian Price.
Okay, excellent. Former graduate of
Former
the
grad.
program. Excellent. Kyle Bergeron, middle school math teacher, but also head coach for several years, and we appreciate all the time and effort you put into getting these students where they're at. So, well done.
Thank you for supporting us as well.
You're welcome. Okay, indoor track and field summary for 2023, 2024. The Granville Indoor Track Field and Field Program continued the tradition of being a force in the Central District and at the state level. Out of 37 teams in the Central District that scored, our men's team took the team runner-up award with 87.5 points, while our women's team continued with their indoor district championship totaling 121 points. This year, we qualified 25 athletes to the state meet. I'm going to try and go through this entire list. Thank you for being so thorough, Mr. Carr. Spencer Beckett, 4x200. William Ebner, 4x200 and 4x400. Grayson Engel, pole vault. I'm a pole vaulter. That's probably why I act the way that I do. Talk to me later. Jack Johnson, weight throw. Is that shot put?
No,
Oh, what's weight throw?
it's almost like a shot, but it's in a net with a handle on
Oh, like a hammer throw.
it. Similar.
Similar?
Hammer's out there.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Huh, interesting. Have they always had that? I was in track and field. Okay, anyway.
It's not
I
outdoor
digress.
event, it's only indoor.
Okay, thank you. Owen Kirkham, 400 and 4x400. Andrew Klaus, 4x200, 4x400. Brian Sarensen, 4x400. Brody Shopes, triple jump, 4x200, 4x400. CJ Wildermuth, weight throw. Kara Bergeron, 800 and 4x400. Nina Breckler, pole vault. Nora Carrington, triple jump. I'll get to that in a minute. Megan Kaminsky, high jump. Olive Dorman, 4x800 alternate. Let's see, Riley Kraus, 4x800. Emery Hardy, 4x200, 4x400. June Landry, 4x800. Elise Larson, weight throw. Annie McCracken, pole vault. Ivy Miller, 4x200 and 4x400. Henny Nathanson, 4x800 alternate. Sophia Poling, 4x800. Katrina Sproul, 4x200 and 4x400. Charlotte Turner, long jump, triple jump, 4x200, 4x400. And Ann Weiss, 4x800. But the highlights include from the state meet, junior Nora Carrington, Division I state champion in the triple jump. Girls 4x400, Sophia sophomore, Charlotte Turner, junior Emery Hardy, seniors Kara Bergeron and Katrina Sproul dropped 9 seconds to place 7th. And sophomore Charlotte Turner, who qualified in 4 events, placed 9th in the long jump with a school record jump of 17 1/4. So I want to recognize head coach Rex Carr, Renee Haley, Ruth Sunkel, Gracie Dennison, Ross Hartley, Will Zink, and Jim O'Neill. Anybody, if you heard your name come up here now. All right, can we get a picture with everyone?
Actually, I think I can. If we can just get a little tighter there. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Wait, we got paparazzi out there. Excellent. Everybody good? All right, congratulations. Okay, and we were going to recognize boys and girls swimming. However, they're competing in club swimming right now, and apparently there was a practice that got called for an event that's coming up next week. So we'll recognize them in April. Sound good? Congratulations to everyone. Please drive safe. At this point, we will transition to the rest of the board meeting. If you want to stay, if you want to stay, you are more than welcome, but now's your opportunity to run. All right. I'm gonna have to twist my arm.
I want to make sure I'm. Oh, you're so good.
Yeah, I do. I'll give you 20 copies. You might need a flak jacket for it, but. Yep. COTC being on the same schedule helps significantly, so you can continue that. Of course. My job. Thank you.
Okay. Our first staff report is me. So we only have one board policy update, and that is related to something that we've just been discussing quite a bit, which is the science of reading requirements. So board policy IGBEA-R is going to have a couple of additional requirements for the diagnostic type of assessment, but most of the changes are related to the transition from the State Board of Education to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. So a lot of just clerical changes, but then just two additional clarifications on what's required in the diagnostic assessment of a student. So this is the first reading. We'll have a second reading in April and then approve that one policy change for OSBA. Any questions related to that? We're going to talk a little bit more about science of reading later on in the agenda when we make the recommendation for the purchase. Great. Okay. All right, next I'd like to invite Scott Carpenter up to the podium for a brief presentation on transportation and safety. As you know, Mr. Carpenter was hired this year as our transportation and safety supervisor. So welcome back, Scott, and to the podium again.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief on updating you on both of these departments. In safety, our emergency operation plans for each building have been reviewed, updated, and approved by the Ohio School Safety Center. This has to be done every 3 years, and this was our renewal year. In addition to that, we are in the process of updating the attendance procedures for the high school and the middle school to a little bit more efficient method. If we would have to evacuate and have a reunification process at the Mitchell Center. The schedule change that they had over the last year or two, I think we've got a little quicker way that we can manage the kids once we get to the Mitchell Center. I'm also meeting with Denison University Head of Security to update our reunification plans with them and just to make sure that we're on the same page with Denison. And I've also met with both the elementary and the intermediate building administrators to clarify their evacuation and reunification plans. Obviously, with GIS's location and GES utilizing St. Ed's, those plans look significantly different from the middle school and the high school. All 4 buildings have their safety assessment teams, also known as threat assessment teams. We decided that we wanted to rename ours safety assessment teams from the state language of threat assessment teams. Everyone on each team has been trained. These are non-disciplinary teams that will follow established protocols to evaluate any student involved with potentially harming another student or students. Careful analysis of that situation will result in an intervention plan in partnership with parents. A staff member or a team of staff members will continually monitor that situation, and we are currently exploring our options for housing this non-educational record data. We have a few options that we're looking at. We're still trying to finalize what platform that we would like that data to be stored in. We are going to migrate our anonymous tip line to the Safer School tip line monitored by the High School Safety Center as a result of migrating our website to a new platform. This tip line is available 24/7, 365. It's free. The security record data is uploaded to the Ohio Department of Education as required by the Ohio Revised Code. They are instrumental in advertising the platforms that tips can be referred through, which are calling, texting, an app, and or a web form. They provide free materials to advertise all of those platforms. Our school district controls the administrators that are notified if there is a call to the tip line. The tip line is monitored by crisis response professionals. Tips that indicate there is an imminent threat to someone's safety will be directed to the county 911 center to involve law enforcement. One of the things that we wanted to clarify is that only a threat to someone's safety is going to be referred to law enforcement. I've been here in this village for over 30 years and at the school for 25. And I have to laugh because one of our students thought the tip line was an appropriate place to tell us that there was no soap in the bathroom by the library restroom. So probably a little education to do with the tip line. We obviously don't want law enforcement to be find about those types of things. So that'll be a transition for us, and we'll be doing some education with students and parents through the open house at the beginning of the year and getting that information, that new information communicated to everyone. We received a grant through the Ohio Attorney General's Office for increasing safety and security by connecting with law enforcement. One of the areas that you could improve, but we already have this connection with Granville Police Department and the Granville Fire Department, is they have access to our cameras in case of emergencies in our facilities. They can access already with swipe cards in times of an emergency. So we are in good shape there, so we decided to utilize the grant monies to install flock cameras at all 3 campuses. These cameras monitor license plates entering on school property. We will receive alerts for many things, but these are examples. We would receive an alert if it is a license plate of a sex offender, a person identified in a custody issue that should not be on campus, or somebody that would be trespassing on school grounds after having difficulties on our campuses. We will be able to partner with Denison University that utilizes this technology, as well as the Granville Police Department. once we have those will be ready to roll for the next school year. I'm going to transition over to transportation. Again, I'm going to try to go fast. If you have questions about something at the end, I'll elaborate. Since I was unable to start the school year until September, the smooth start to this school year should be fully credited to our dispatcher and administrative assistant, Dina Kilworth, and our lead mechanic, Joe Liff. Dina and Joe fully implemented our new transportation software, Traversa, last year in the 22-23 school year. They installed the routes, communicated with Glenn about the information for the school website, and connected our parents with the app that monitors bus locations. Due to my delayed start again of September 1st, Dina and Joe again implemented that same routing system for the start of this school year. That was a very successful start to the year. Traversa has also upgraded the Ride 360 app to My Ride K-12 that has new features that make it even easier for our parents to monitor bus locations. Our success in the transportation department needs to be credited mostly to Dina and Joe, but I also want all of the bus drivers to receive a pat on the back. They are flexible and they're always willing to help. And right when I don't think something's going to get covered, one of them steps up to meet the challenge. To date, we have covered almost 200,000 miles on routes alone. That doesn't include field trips. We've only had 2 fender benders, and those were with cars that were improperly parked on township roads on the road, and we were attempting to navigate around them for a student pickup. We have provided transportation for 391 academic, athletic, or music trips. These usually require more than one bus, so it's not just 391 bus trips. There are multiple. For example, I didn't realize this till I dove into the transportation department. Football Friday nights require 7 buses for the football team and the marching band, as well as someone for the box truck to take musical instruments. So there are 5 away Friday nights that we have, 7 buses and a box truck, 8 drivers dedicated to doing that. Mr. Stewart is still here, so I'm going to make sure that I thank him for his willingness to help us on afternoon route coverage or delivery of athletes to an away game when we do not have enough staff to get an event out before our routes in the afternoon are done. Dave has been a huge help, and I really appreciate that. Another pat on the back goes to our mechanic, Joe Liff. Every bus that has been inspected by the State Highway Patrol to this point has passed inspection on the first attempt. We have 1/3 of the fleet left to be inspected before the end of the year, and we expect all 10 of those to also pass. We were also fortunate to hire a mechanic intern, Garrett Kelly, from the Knox County Career Center. He's been a positive addition to our team. He's a very good problem solver and a hard worker, and unless something would change between my conversation with him and Mr. Petrie, I'm relatively certain he is going to be hired on to be our full-time second mechanic.
He's on the agenda for tonight.
Excellent.
We don't want to lose him.
Excellent. He's been a great addition to our team. In January, we improved personnel numbers enough that we were able to add a route in January to alleviate some of the overcrowding on about 6 of our K-6 routes. Joe Liff added the route to the Traversa system and adjusted the other 6 routes. Students are being picked up and dropped off more efficiently, and all 7 routes, as a result, are less crowded. At that time, we also transitioned from 3 rounds of dismissal at the elementary and intermediate school to 2 rounds of dismissal. This is allowing for a quicker overall dismissal at the end of the day at both buildings and students getting home a little bit earlier. Again, a lot of this is due to the adjustments made by the bus drivers when these changes were handed out. I'm currently working with building administrators to improve student behavior on buses. Our goal is for students to understand that their good behavior in the building needs to extend to the bus ride. I met with the GIS Student Council thanks to Mrs. Thomas. I shared our safety concerns with the students, and they are going to work on ideas for improving student behavior on the bus. I must say, the student council kids tend to not be the kids in council. We'll see where that goes. We plan to have a bus at kindergarten registration this summer so that kindergartners can have a little bit of a safety orientation of the school bus. We plan to be at GES and GIS open houses to communicate about school bus safety as well. We are still attempting to hire personnel to make our transportation department as efficient as possible. The increase in pay was directly responsible for the drivers we hired prior to the year starting. As a result, for the majority of the year thus far, Joe Liff, Dina Kilworth, and myself have not had to drive a lot. However, since the middle of January, due to some personnel changes, Joe, Dina, and myself had to drive a little bit more frequently. I have not finished my CDL yet because of all the training of the people that we have hired. Fill in on van routes that then frees up a driver that can handle the bus route. We have expanded our staff since the start of the school year only by one total driver. This has allowed us to add an additional route in January that addressed that overcrowding issue we had on several of the elementary routes, but we have not been able to expand that any further. I just want everyone to know, we currently have no unassigned drivers that could serve as substitutes at this time. We do have one substitute in the system that is very helpful. Mr. Jeff Burkett helps 75% of the time he makes himself available, so we're in really good shape because of him. We are still advertising and recruiting for drivers, and heading into the end of this year and next year, we definitely need to add personnel. I tried to go quick through all of that. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to elaborate on something if I went too fast.
That was great. And back to the safety thing, I know we have a great collaboration with fire and police force locally. How often do we have our safety committee together that includes some external pieces? And who all is on that committee or who's represented?
So we met in the fall and we met in January, and I provided an update to kind of measure the degree of everybody's need to wanting to meet before the school year was out. Everyone felt comfortable that we'll come back at the end of September next year. We did. Chief Caskey is part of that. Chief Curtis is part of that team. There's also representation from the Licking County Emergency Team that is stationed in Heath, that is invited. School administrators, parents. Mr. Welker joins us because a lot of our safety is technology-based. So Mr. Welker joined us on there. Mr. Brown joins us. Have I left anybody out?
Dennison's.
Oh, yeah, Dennison's security chief is also represented on there.
Great. I often get questions about safety and security. I kind of mentioned the collaboration that we have with all those organizations. People really feel comfortable about that, so thanks for keeping up that cooperation. Great.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, next, as we transition to the Student Wellness and Success presentation by Glenn Spence, our Director of Student Services, I'll just kind of frame the conversation. Several years ago, I think starting in 2017, the district started to have some monies available through different project or different funding mechanisms through the governor's office. In the last biennium, they embedded the wellness and success funds into the funding formula, and we receive revenue every single year for student wellness and success. And you know, we developed a plan in 2017, and it's time to update that plan. And we'll just kind of, Gwen's here to share kind of how we utilize those funds and benefit our student population.
So in your folders at the very back, the last page that's in your folder should be our 5-year plan. I'll walk through that for everybody once Mr. Walter has it up and running. Apparently I was the guinea pig to try out new technology on the new board, so
Mr. Brown told me to go ahead, so here we are.
here we are.
It's connecting. Looks great. That's a good
I was
sign.
thinking about it. Oh, maybe not.
We're done.
Let me just start kind of walking us through some things. So as you guys can imagine, our safety, our student well-being is the top priority that we have, safety and well-being of our students and our staff. And so as we have continued down the path of SBL learning, we look at how that could have an intense impact on student overall well-being if they've got some student choice, and how they can work through things. So we continue to link that to our students' well-being. One of the slides would be very much easier to see than me reading it. Let me just share with you that the governor has set aside approximately, did you clarify this?
It's annually $214,000 in our budget.
Right, so annually we receive $214,000 from the state that goes to student success and student well-being. And over the last many years, we have developed or have used these funds for things like getting our PBIS team, over there, okay, our PBIS team going and our MTSS teams going, and looking at growing our portrait of a graduate, even in our buildings. You may have noticed in the opening of school this year, we have banners in all of our buildings that reflect our portrait of a graduate things so that kids can see that consistency from K-12, and they feel that welcome, and that's an important part of them being placed in each of our buildings. We have also used some of our funds to train staff in PACS, which is the good behavior game. So we've trained all K-6 staff using some of these funds. We have also done additional training at the elementary for them to go a little bit deeper into PACS, where it's the most prolific building where that's used. And so each year, or every 5 years, we look at how can we continue to improve our students' well-being. And one of the things we have to do with these funds is develop partnerships. And it is exciting to be a part of a number of different agencies that we partner with. We partner with the Lincoln County ESC. We obviously partner with Mental Health Services and the Alcohol and Drug Board here in Lincoln County. We partner with Developmental Disabilities. We partner with Ohio Guidestone. Ohio Guidestone provides a mental health therapist for us in our district, K through 12. She's available to us approximately 4 days a week. She helps with very short-term supports that kids may need from a mental health perspective or evaluation perspective, and then she helps families then lean into more in-depth therapeutic type services. And obviously we have our partnership with Memorial as well. So if you recall, back in 2017, we did our well-being task force, and they identified a number of different areas that we wanted to make sure that we were improving on to improve on our overall well-being of our students. And so at that time, school conditions, social media, parenting, behavioral health, prevention and suicide policy were all part of that conversation. About 2 years later came the social and emotional learning standards from the state. These standards are a little bit different in the sense that it is not a demand like a science standard might be or a language arts standard might be, but these are things that districts can take into consideration. So we have taken a lot of time to web and weave the SEL standards into our school counseling program. So we're starting our new 5-year plan over. So this year, we have the PBIS tier going in all buildings. And this is, when you think about tier 1, this is how kids learn how to kind of do school and what we expect from kids at school. And we're working with our district team to train them on tier 2, which will slowly move forward with their building teams. We obviously held a huge staff and community forum with our 2 mental health experts in August. We are working through the school counseling program that we expect to bring back to the board in the fall. That should be completed by the end of June, and that will align the social emotional standards and where those are being taught and by whom in that process. This year, we also created a district-wide multiple tier system of support, or MTSS. This committee is the 4 assistant principals and myself working together to design our process so it's clean and clear, and we have common language K through 12. The assistant principals have done an outstanding job of really looking at ways we can be collaborative, we can use the same language, we can help parents understand if you have a concern in reading at 2nd grade, this is how the process will look. If you have a concern about reading in 6th grade, this is how the process is going to look. We are continuing to provide that ongoing professional development for our self-determination learning. We also piloted the experiential learning mastermind class, and the high school English department did an SDL class as well this year, as just some opportunities for our kids to have some lead in their education.
And I'm going to interrupt real quick. So I think that's a unique aspect to this plan that I don't think most people are connecting. So our pedagogical approaches related to self-determined learning show, there's evidence to show that that is a mental health strategy. A lot of what we hear from therapists and other providers is, we can't provide enough therapy to work our way out of some of the issues that we're dealing with locally. So we have to look at some of the stressors and the conditions outside of that. And really, I think the mental health experts that talked to us at the beginning of the year, Dr. Bill Stixrud and Dr. Slavin, they really emphasized the fact that part of that mental health strategy is eliminating toxic stress. The toxic stress where kids have all the responsibility and no control. And so we've really tried to take that strategy of using self-determined learning as a way to increase students' level of engagement, but also bring back the joy of learning a little bit, which is, primary concern, but it also is a mental health strategy. So I just want to, specifically call out that nuance to our approach, because I think that's probably really rare. Yeah, it's easy to see it on there.
One of the things that helps guide our planning is our student surveys. And our family surveys, and our exit surveys, and all of those things, take all of those things into consideration about what students are telling us they want to feel better about learning and about that balance between school, friends, and family as well. And so based on all of those different things, we laid out the 5-year plan. So this next year in the school year, we will start a review of homework practice. That will start at the leadership level, and then we will bring that into our buildings and for further conversation, obviously looking for input and insight from all of our stakeholders. The 5th grade students next year will start to do strength finders. The board may remember that you did that opportunity a few years ago, as did our administrative team, and anybody who's new to our administrative team has also done that, to really look at what are your strengths and what do you bring to the table. So 5th grade plans to use that entity all of next year. Our district-wide plan for PBIS will move Tier 2 into all buildings slowly. We want to do this well, so I don't expect it to be in a perfected place by the end of next year, but we start to slowly build our Tier 2 supports. And then we will be doing our training with our team at Tier 3. And then we will be implementing the MTSS practices that the APs and myself have designed this year, and we'll get that rolled out. In year 3, we will have that Tier 3 going. We will continue to monitor that MTSS implementation. We'll be looking at some cultural competency training. And then each year, we're looking at what are the school conditions and structures that align with our self-determined learning, but what is it coming out of our surveys, so that we can get much more hyper-focused in these years that are a few years down the road. And then year 4 and 5 comes with a combination of really evaluating how are we doing, where are we at, what are the survey results looking like 4 years after we've implemented some of these things, what are still some of the school conditions and structures that we need to continue to develop, and then begin to think about in year 5 that if we are looking at that expansion of Granville schools, what is the best way to train staff in going through that? As you can imagine, splitting up an elementary building, there's some things you have to be very thoughtful about, and we want to make sure that we're managing not only our students' well-being, but our staff's well-being as well, as they go through that potential shift down the road. And then obviously we'll begin to build that new plan in that 5th year.
But just to clarify, we don't have any specific plans about splitting up any buildings? Okay.
Yeah. Not at all. No, this is just be
Just
thinking
an
about that.
example
Yeah,
of
this
how-
would be the time to start thinking about what might that look like if
Right.
it's going to happen.
Gotcha, thank you.
So, questions that you guys have?
Sorry, I jumped in, we're almost there.
Perfect timing.
I just got nervous,
That's all right.
You mentioned a specific that I could get a lot of emails about.
Any questions?
Are you satisfied, happy with the collaborative efforts that we have within the community?
I am. It's impressive. Sometimes we fight the battle of not having enough services for our families and for our kids in this area. And that is very true and very real. Having the partnerships we have with Ohio Guidestones, I've met with other agencies as well, Pathways, some of the other local folks who provide services. We have our private counselors who work very collaboratively with our families, but they're all facing the same thing, and that is finding staff to be able to fit the need. And so if you are looking for a more very intense level, a student may have significant anxiety, unable to come to school, unable to perform, those wait lists with Children's Hospital, OSU, all of those are extremely long. Those are a challenge, to say the least. We do partner anytime a student does have a kind of partial hospitalization type program, if they've gone through that process. We partner with them to bring them back slowly and make sure that they are feeling comfortable. Part of that transition involves making sure they can kind of explain where they have been and why they've been there. Because you can imagine that's pretty hard to deal with when you've been out. And so yes, are we in the same boat as everybody else? We are. Staffing is extremely difficult in this area across the board.
Yeah, I work in the behavioral health world, and it's an ongoing, constant battle,
It is.
especially in a not being an urban area. It adds to that challenge as well. So, in my opinion, we have really good services in Licking County. We just, frankly, don't have enough. I don't know if there will ever be enough, but
Exactly.
that you're not understating the challenge
It's
of,
very deep and continues to be a challenge for most of our families to find that support immediately. Which has been great about our mental health partnerships, that we've had that opportunity to at least get through immediate help determine if we need to move more quickly, if the child should be moved to like the emergency room, with that conversation with parents as well.
and I think the important word there is immediacy, because that's the challenge. I think the biggest challenge is the services might be available, but if they tell you 6 months,
Right.
I mean, that's a challenge for everybody,
Exactly.
including the providers.
Of course, it's not like you hang on for 6 months because
Right.
the help is available.
Right, right. But thanks for all your efforts with this plan. I think it's very well thought out.
Thank you.
Gwen has taken a holistic approach to student services. Most people, think of that position as strictly special education, but Gwen has done an excellent job of broadening her horizons and her influence on what impacts all students. And so, great job, and the MTSS opportunity has also given our assistant principals an opportunity to shine. So it's been great. Thank you. Brittany, let's talk financials.
Right. All right, jumping into the cash balance comparison for the month of February. Our cash balance is still above where we were last year at this time, but it has decreased from the balance that we've seen in previous months. And I want to highlight that because a lot of times I talk about these timing variances and they don't seem very significant, things like that. But we are seeing a timing difference with our receipt of property tax payments, which I believe is related to the legislation at the end of last year. Tax bills have gone out late, payments have come in a little bit later, so we're delayed in getting those payments from the county auditor. Actually just received the settlement today, so all that will true up when we get to March. But since it is our largest revenue source, it's causing a variance in the cash balance that we're actually seeing too. So just wanted to highlight that right off the get-go because it does look a little bit shocking compared to previous months. And then that is illustrated again here. So the top gray bar is last year's local tax revenue, and then the bottom is this year's. So you're seeing that timing difference carry through there. And then we'll also see it carry through for year to date. Again, when I'm presenting next month for March, that should all even out. But I did want to still adjust for just for the advance related to ESSER. So over to the right, each month I've started adjusting under the other revenue line. That includes that large return of advance for the ESSER payments that we've talked about. But I'm not adjusting for the property tax payments. I think to some extent, we still need to actually see what's actually happening from month to month. So after adjusting just for the ESSER payments, year-to-date revenue is down a little over $1 million. On the expenditure side, this is very much in alignment with what we saw in January. So salary and benefits are up slightly. That's again our base increases, steps, and additional staff that were added this year. Purchase service last month was up over prior year, and now it's down. That's where we see the timing difference. And so that has played out in February. And then looking at expenditures year to date, base salary increases, staff, we brought maintenance in-house, all of those are, and increase in insurance starting in January. All that is being reflected in the salaries and benefits line item. Purchase service, we have timing of some utility payments, tuition payments that we're paying annually versus we've paid monthly in the past. And then that ABM payment that we doubled up in July with the phase out of that contract and bringing in Harvard. That's all under purchase service. And then other expenses, that includes that transfer to the capital projects fund. That's what's driving that significant increase over prior year. So over on the right, after adjusting for that transfer, expenditures are up 1.5 million over previous year compared to including that transfer would be 3.3. So to give an apples to apples, the number on the far right is closer comparison. Moving on to COVID-related funds. So I've largely just glossed over this slide because we haven't had much change. But now that we're getting down to the wire, we're crunching the numbers with final salary and benefits for everybody involved. So we did have some additional funds that we were able to reallocate. So the change here is we've moved some of the money that was previously under staffing to ST Math and the M-class assessment. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well done.
So we have that as a change to how our total allocation of funds are going to be spent over the next couple of months. So we do still have just the 3 sources remaining. We have the summer intervention. We have purchase orders in place for the items I just mentioned, and then we're still paying on the intervention position of the elementary for the remainder through August. Capital Projects Fund, we are about 2/3 of the way through paying off the project, but the bulk of the work will happen during spring break. So I would anticipate that we'll have another large payment probably in March, and then hopefully close this out in April. But I think that this has been a helpful way for us to track how this project individually is going compared to just lumping it in. The only detail that you would otherwise get is just under all other expenses on the expenditure slide. So this is a good way to test the water in this capital projects fund and track that separately. And then our cash reconciliation, and that is all for financial, unless there are questions.
I think it's a great process to have a capital project fund and transfer money from the operating to be clear about what those non-operating effectively expenses are. Is there a way that that's reported through other organizations that calculate things like dollars per student operating expenses, or does that all get kind of washed out when you look at some of the
Yeah, so you have to be careful because every entity that's putting out data, especially related to expenditure per pupil, is going to include and exclude certain account codes.
Yeah.
That's how we track
Yeah.
those type of things. There's also operating versus capital. So the way that we're doing this here is through a transfer from the general fund, which is typically one of the items that would be excluded from the expenditure per pupil calculation.
Excellent.
That's why we elected to do it that way.
Yeah.
It also plays into our cash balance policy and how we calculate days of cash on hand. So excluding that from the calculation actually increases, it gives us a more accurate representation of what our expenditure per day is, so that our cash balance at the end of the year isn't underinflated from where it should be if we had otherwise included that. So I think it's a way to actually be more consistent and transparent, hopefully across all entities that are reporting data, but
Yeah.
again, you have to look at the fine print to know what else was included.
Yeah, even just the number of pupils between those different organizations or enrollment is somehow different in those calculations. But it's good to kind of have that long-term trend, and I think it's one that we always keep our eye on. So
Yeah.
it's nice that we have a mechanism to exclude the one-time operating or capital expenses that don't necessarily fall into that. So thanks for explaining that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
One more time, there we go.
Thank you.
You're opposite.
Okay, we're at the agenda where we are for public comments. And the meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting school district's business, not considered a public community meeting. I'd invite anyone that would like to step up and address the board. Please state your name, address, and have 3 minutes to share with us.
We're putting you on the clock.
We'd love to hear that.
That's okay, he's a runner, he knows what
One
the
job.
clock is.
Do I have time to pass out?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I'm gonna start again, don't worry.
Madam Vice President's leaving.
My name is Jim Prentice. I live at 211 Wicklow Drive, Granville, Ohio. Let's just go through as fast as we can, 3 minutes. 50 years ago, Lincoln County League girls had their first opportunity to compete for a Lincoln County League track and field championship. That was 1974. In 1984, they won their first LCL title. If you look at the first handout, the girls competed in 12 events in 1974. In 1984, they competed in 16 events. In 1974, the longest distance the girls could compete in was the 880, or the 800 meters. By the time 1984 rolled around, they were competing in the mile, 2 mile, 1600, 3200 meter. In 1984, that was the very first year that they could compete in the 2 mile or 3200 meter race. In 1974, it was very close between Watkins Memorial, Keith, and Lakewood. In 1984, it was very close between Granville, Licking Valley, and Watkins. The 2 mile being a brand new event, Penelope Stenger, by winning the event and defeating the girl who won the mile, a Licking Valley girl, really made it possible to win the meet. They then won the mile relay, and thus they had the points to be successful in terms of beating a team that had previously won 3 straight years. Licking Valley was a powerhouse, and very close to winning a 4th in a row. 1974 team was coached by Miss McClish, and the 1984 team was coached by Bob Holland. Bob Holland became the head girls coach, along with being the head boys coach in 1983. So this was his 2nd year at the helm. So if you were to look at the newspaper article from 1984, you don't have it, I do. Okay, so Heath won handily the boys. So now they're talking about the girls. Granville, however, bubbling with youth and vitality, won for the first time in the 11-year history of the girls' event. but not without a dazzling comeback by outgoing three-time champ Licking Valley and a scrap from frustrated Watkins Memorial. The Blue Aces, complete with youthful coach Bob Holland, took.
Sorry.
Can I finish?
Yes, you're fine, you're fine. This is the first time you've seen it.
Took the chase to the final event, the 1,600-meter relay, before they nipped Licking Valley 113 to 111. Watkins ran out of steam in the late going and finished third with 101. I was really happy with our runners at the end of the meet, said Holland, who also directed the Vanderbilt boys to a solid third-place finish. Licking Valley came on strong in the distance events, and I thought they were going to get us. Penelope Stanger did it for us in the 3,200. Oh, Penelope Stanger was a freshman. And this, of course, was the year Laura Redden was a freshman. Cindy Davis was a junior. So she anchored the mile relay in '84, and she anchored the mile relay in '85. In 1985, they won their second league title, and they won it handily, but '84 was the starting point. Any questions?
Was the Parsley Leanne?
Leanne Parsley would have been sophomore.
As always, thank you to our
Historian.
track.
And I really appreciate it, and I love the age that I remember. I know I don't look like it now, but I used to be a runner, and we ran in yards instead of meters. So it's interesting seeing 880 and 220. I remember those days. So thank you for this information. This is terrific.
Bob Holland was that coach for like 35 years, something like that too, right? Because he was around that long ago.
I'm gonna have to go. Learn how to use that month and then.
There you go.
Any other public comment at this time? Okay, let's move on to board discussion.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just kind of highlight strategic planning. The task force will meet on Wednesday this week. There are quite a few things that we will be updating related to the committee. Most importantly is talking about our facility master planning process. We have an action item tonight where we are finalizing the contract with Fanning and Howie to facilitate that strategic planning process, or the facility master planning process. So we're going to talk through what it involves. We'll give an update on the 208 water and sewer district conversations that are happening in Lincoln County. The Canyon Road discussions related to the sale of the Russell property and the annexation of that property into Heath. And then we'll talk about a couple of other subdivisions, including Willow Bend, which we are starting to get contracts related to houses through kindergarten enrollment. We'll also talk a little bit more about kindergarten enrollment. So I just wanted to make sure everybody is still aware that we formed this strategic task force. Really at the beginning when Intel made its announcement, we've been collecting data, forming conversations. A lot of things that are occurring in the community are related to some of the discussions that we've had in that forum. The finalization of the JED agreements, overlay districts, all those things are coming to fruition, which is excellent. So anyway, I just wanted to put that on the radar for the board, and you can do board reports unless there's any questions.
You mean board discussion?
Yeah, board discussion, yes.
Well, I'd like to jump in and compliment Mr. Carpenter on his presentation because he gave everyone in his department credit, and that's the sign of a really good manager, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I just want to echo Ms. Deed's comments. I want to compliment your leadership and the entire department for what they do for our kids and the safety issues. And I don't think very many people are aware of what it takes and how much you're doing it. And I thought that was a terrific presentation about how your team works together to literally keep the buses running on time, but also that safety portion of it. It just doesn't happen, you know, knock on wood, we never have to implement those plans, but being prepared and the collaboration we have in the community is terrific, so thanks to everyone.
Relative to growth, I'm looking forward to the meeting on Wednesday. Right, there's so much happening there and things like that. It'd be great to find a way to report out from that to the board and the community as well, with all the different balls in motion. There's things with water resources, there's things with development, there's things with zoning and so forth that we're doing a great job of staying on top of. We've got to make sure the community is as educated as we can. So we'll work on that. You want to come?
I'd just like to add, I think between the strategic planning and what Ms. Spence is doing and Mr. Carpenter, it's showing how we're staying on top of it or trying to stay ahead if at all possible with all these different changes. And I'm very impressed and pleased with how our administration and staff deals with that. I think it's a wonderful job. It's probably not noticed or talked about enough, but it is appreciated, and I think it plays into a lot of the success that our kids experience here is because of the preparation and the thoughtfulness and the collaboration that goes into it. Anybody have any updates from any organizations or?
And then for seniors, the GEF just extended their deadline, so there's still a little time to get your applications in for a scholarship, reminding my daughter.
And if we're plugging scholarships, I would be remiss to not point out that the Kiwanis Club has applications for scholarships as well. Okay, action agenda?
Yes, okay. 10.01 is the approval of the agreement with Daktronics Sports Marketing for the approval of the installation of a video scoreboard at the Walter J. Hodges Stadium.
So moved.
Okay, so this is a video scoreboard that will generate revenue that will replace, how do I say it? Replenish the amount of money that we spend to install the video scoreboard through advertisements and marketing. So it's very similar to what we did with the athletic complex. We're advancing the money, and then we will get paid back over time through the revenue generated by the video scoreboard. So in the end, it should be a cost neutral investment from us. So, and there are some opportunities for our students to be engaged in video production that can be utilized on the video scoreboard throughout athletic events.
What's the payback period? I'm pleased that we can make this relatively cost neutral and things like that, because it seems like an expensive thing, but there's great opportunities for marketing. How's that?
We probably...
We'll have a majority of it in the first year.
Really?
But there are some vendors who are committing over 4 years, like splitting over 4 years. But those will be the main sponsorships, and then we can continue to sell after the first 4 years. So that's just the initial payback period, and then beyond that will just be revenue positive.
Are we, in this, are we committed to Daktronics Sport Marketing for all the content that's displayed? Does it go through them? Or
They're just the provider. Yeah, they're just the provider of the material.
Do you have a sense for who the primary advertisers might be? Would they be local or national, or what kinds of things other schools might have?
At some other point, once we have contracts signed, we can share with you. But I know that the athletic boosters have committed $50,000 for the next 2 years, so $100,000 of revenue to support this is coming from them. They've already approved that, so I feel comfortable talking about that. The others
I can
are
also
private.
say, 25,000 came from Park National Bank as well, because that's already been received.
So they might be an advertisement, then they'll get some
Yeah,
free time.
they- yes.
Right, that's a great example of a community organization that's supporting and so forth. Oh, cool.
And we already have a class, at least at the middle, we already have a class, Blue Ace Media is already a class that could potentially work on this, or no?
We have classes at the middle school and high school that would have the opportunity to do this, but it might need a little bit more specificity because of the nuances of that video production. But yeah, we do have some video editing classes.
Going on already, yeah.
Yep.
And so this agreement is just a purchase contract for the hardware, or is it a take back, is it a marketing contract that they're doing, or they just sell us equipment?
They are,
It's just the equipment.
it's just the equipment.
Okay.
I mean, they put together like some materials that we're using to get the commitment, the financial commitments from vendors. They helped put together that presentation that Josh is using in those conversations. But they're the provider of the actual scoreboard, that's one of the
Right.
examples.
Right. And other districts have done this, and it seems to work out, and it's
Yes.
basically,
Yeah, pretty much every school district except for Heath and Northridge have some sort of, have some type of video. You know, Johnstown just did theirs last year
With that.
with Daktronics, so, yeah.
And I think Mr. Duvall has a good plan of reaching out to community partners. And I know he's going to make some presentations to the Rotary, Kiwanis, and those sorts of things. So I think there's a strong plan in place to help cover this.
and it's great that we're in control of content, right? Because
Yeah.
people will be, it's a
Right.
big looking thing and so forth, and having that ultimate control of that is sort of fun, so, yeah, sounds great.
What kind of lifespan does it have?
Lifespan,
Uh-huh.
is that what you asked? I believe it's 10-year, but I believe the parts are pretty easily interchanged. The control board is the most important piece. So, from what I'm told. I've never run it.
And my understanding too is Daktronics has a very good reputation and has worked with a lot of Licking County schools, so they have a known, a good track record too of working with the schools, whether there's been mechanical or electrical challenges and those types of things, which is somewhat reassuring.
And we do anticipate that the construction company that built the stadium will be involved in this process as well, in the construction.
Cool. Okay, great.
Take the roll, please.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 10.02 is the approval of the Community Improvement Corporation MOU.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the CIC Corporation is really just an MOU stating that we would like to be involved in the construction of the CIC. This was a result of the conversation that the joint meeting of the village, township, schools, and chamber held a couple of weeks ago. And a CIC is an independent corporation that we would have representation on, that would be a part of our recruitment and development strategy related to economic development, and specifically related to the economic development corridor that is identified in the comprehensive plans. So this is another step in the right direction related to commercial investment. And then Brittany serves on the chamber board, so if you want to add anything.
Well, I just think that this is really a good step for the school district specifically, because we don't have a lot of involvement necessarily by nature in economic development, so this is one way that we can be at the table. And it's also similar to how Framework was cross-jurisdictional, that's how this could be too. That would be one advantage to forming the CIC versus leaving it just in the hands of the village or the township. This could be, the boundaries of this entity could coordinate for the entire boundary of the school district, is what the intent is.
And there's no fiscal obligation on our part. It's really a collaborative.
Have we assigned a representative to be the school district's point person? We have not gotten that far. We need to pass a resolution first.
But that's the point of passing this, so
Yeah.
that we
Okay.
can have a seat at the table. The spot on the board.
And then this is similar to when the GRD, the rec district was formed, correct? A similar,
Slightly different because this is a private entity that will be formed versus the GRD was a taxing entity that was formed based on different Ohio Revised Code. But this is very similar to like what Grow Licking County is for Licking County. So,
I was pleased at the joint meeting to hear how many communities and organizations have formed like this around Ohio. Right, and I think certainly in the face of growth, we want to be able to coordinate that as best possible, right? And make sure all the voices are at the table, and having the school district at the table is unique and really powerful, but very important for us to stay on top of from an economic perspective. So,
and I like that they're using the district border as their map or template. That's really important. Okay, take the roll, please.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Miller?
aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
all right, 10.03, thank you. 10.03 is the approval of the Johnstown, Alexandria, Granville letter of support.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so this is a letter of support related to the formation of district management areas of water and sewer providing, entities providing water and sewer. So if you've been reading in the newspaper about the JAG, it is the formation of a collaborative that is really related to water and sewer. It's of particular relevance right now because the Ohio EPA is reviewing and the county commissioners are reviewing the 208 plans that allocate specific areas to entities to provide water and service, or water and sewer service to those areas. So this letter of support is really saying to the county commissioners that we as a school district support the Granville community participating in this process and providing water and sewer to the district area management boundaries that they've identified. So doesn't have any, it's not binding, it doesn't have any true value except to communicate to the county commissioners who we will deliver this letter of support to.
So it carries weight in that extent.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, where water flows, development follows. Right? And understanding that and managing that for our own facilities as well as those of all the residents of our district is really important to make this thing sustainable. So hopefully this organization can get their arms around that and be a central point for this whole region.
Yeah.
So,
I think the most important piece is keeping it local, right? Where local entities can control what type of water and sewer areas they want to service and control that density. Where you have an outside, if you have an outside entity providing that service, it might not match what the community desires.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 10.04 is the agreement of the Fanning and Howey and Associates contract.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if you remember, we identified them at the last meeting as who we would bring the contract back with. Fanning and Howey and Associates will be providing the facility master planning process. They'll be doing a lot of work preemptively over the next couple of months and then into the summer doing the analysis of our facilities and then kicking off a community process in the fall. but we're excited to start working with them more strategically.
Do they use information, sorry.
And this was the result of the recommendation of the Strategic Planning Committee to engage in a process like this. So,
Do they use the information that we've already been provided from Cooperative Strategies?
yes, and others, yeah.
So the public engagement portion, we're expecting beginning of the 24-25 school year.
That's correct. And I will take the opportunity to just say publicly that I think the challenge of this process is identifying, we know that we're going to grow. The challenge is when. So, usually what you do is you put a pin on a calendar and work backwards based on, when you think that the anticipated volume will increase to the point where you need a new facility. That pin has not been placed yet for a variety of different reasons. So it's important to understand we are doing this proactively, knowing that we are going to be growing, getting the community involved early and often so that those voices can be heard. Much to what Thomas said earlier as far as getting the community fully engaged in this process.
Yeah, I think getting out ahead of it really helps you in culturally kind of understanding where we are and what we want to propagate as well. With the changes that we're implementing with curriculum that we've heard of, right? That has implications on facilities, right? And I think going through that process with community will help kind of share a little bit what our vision is for the education of our kids, right? And how that ties into the legacy of the education here in Granville to make sure that we kind of continue what we've had as the community grows. So I'm expecting great community involvement because I think it's really important. And I think Fanning and Howie came out of the interviews great, and I think they're going to be fantastic to coordinate this, not just from kind of an architecture or a building logistics perspective, but also from getting the voice of the community.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, involved in the process. So I'm looking forward to this getting started.
And I'd just like to add that I think this process is important so that people, we're talking about it, and we're going forward. I want people to be comfortable that they're not shocked all of a sudden that the sky is falling. We want a public discussion, and we value their input about what we anticipate down the road. But we still, like you said, that pin's being picked up and moved. I mean, we're not sure. But talking about it is really important. That, again, goes back to being prepared.
Yeah. Thank you.
It might be good to have, to make the Operations and Research Committee aware of this and so forth, just as a way to reach out and touch. I'm not sure if there's a meeting coming up or not, but they're all ones that have engaged in this conversation before when we talked about facilities. So maybe just a quick email update to that group if it's still active.
And we will probably tap into every single superintendent committee because we want max participation.
Yeah.
So we want standing room only when we start those conversations.
Yep, great.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Excellent. 10.05 is the approval of purchase of science of reading curriculum.
So moved.
Second.
So this is the culmination of a pretty lengthy process facilitated by Mr. Bernath related to the purchase of Wit and Wisdom, which is an approved curriculum curriculum resource from the state of Ohio, and it does satisfy in coordination with the utilization of Hegarty and Foundations as a comprehensive literacy program, as Mr. Morris articulated back when we had this initial conversation about literacy. So we're ready to move forward.
I'll say this is one I really initially struggled with when I saw the magnitude of the expense, which is in some ways I connected to legislation that was not funded. So I took the time to dig into it. I met with Mr. Bernath. I reviewed what the World Class Education Foundation group said about it. We heard from Mr. Morris, and really this is much more than a state mandate that's not funded. This is an important step forward. It's a big investment, but curriculum and education is what we do, and this is important for us to do right now. I kind of shudder whenever I see a big expense that's somehow tied to a state mandate, but it's more than that. It's really something that's going to move our education in the younger grades to the next level, and I feel like the buildings are engaged with it across the district. It's the right thing to do. So I did a lot of looking into it, and I feel real confident. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you. Any other comments? Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye. 10.06 is the approval of the GHS course description book.
So moved.
Second.
This is for the 24-25 school year. And we have a couple of different offerings that we are providing, especially related to some collaborations between humanities and or English language arts and social studies related to SDL. So a couple of changes there. Also some of the offerings of College Credit Plus. So we wanted to make sure that those were embedded into the course description book.
Once this is approved, if, you know, after tonight, where can people find this easily? Is it online? Is it?
Yes, it will be online, but if you go to the website and go to the high school, it will be on the high school's portion of the website.
Okay. Thank you.
I've heard some great things about the direction the high school is moving, specifically with things like the language arts SDL class that E.P. Smith is kind of charging in forth. And do we have a section of the experiential learning mastermind or something equivalent at the high school in the coming year as well?
It is in the course book. I don't know if we are offering it specifically based on enrollment,
Okay.
but it is an offering in the course description book.
Yeah, I feel like we've kind of pushed those a little bit in the past, and now we're feeling the pull.
Yeah.
Right, so it's really flipped around, and I think we're getting staff, and I think we're getting families that kind of understand what some of these new courses are and things like that. Our flexibility in the work that we've done with CTEC as well has been fantastic, right, to give us a great set of offerings. So thanks for keeping that up.
No problem. Take the roll, please.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. 10.07 is the approval of the SAC contract with Love and Learning.
Second.
The contract is exactly the same, we just did an inflationary monthly or payment adjustment. So I think it's nominal, especially because we appreciate the service that they provide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. Next is the approval of an agreement with VAT for transportation services for next year, which is related to a special education student.
So moved.
Second?
Nothing more to add.
Take the roll.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Deeds?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Thank you. And that brings us to the consent agenda. And I am going to highlight two things that need adjustments. So the first one is Garrett Kelly. Yeah, let's do a motion in a second.
Second.
All right. Thank you. The first item under the classified contracts, number 5, or 4, it should be the 24-25 school year versus the 23-24. There is one right above that's 23-24. That's for the interim between May and July, so that we can get him working for us immediately. And then the next one is for the following year. And then the second one is Renee Janey. Her item is effective on 3/4, which is number 8. Thank you. So those are the only modifications to the consent agenda. I would also call your attention to Well, one, Garrett Kelly, we are hiring a bus mechanic to replace Larry Holcomb, who left over a year ago. We've been doing without, and I agree, Joe Liff, his name is fitting. He's been lifting a lot. And then we have a couple of certified contracts. We have an intervention specialist and a French teacher, which is a needle in a haystack, that we will hire for next year as well. So we are knee-deep in the hiring process for positions that we need to refill. And then there are a couple of resignations with appreciation of service, including 2 bus drivers, and then a couple of teachers, and those positions are currently posted and hopefully we will fill soon. And then we have a slew of events or field trips that are overnight that we will be approving. Lots of good stuff happening.
Yeah, take it one, please.
Ms. Deeds? Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
All right.
Item 12.01, approval of the February 2024 financial report.
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
I just want to, I appreciate how you take the time to explain variances and subtle changes that might, that might jump out to me, but I'm sure everybody else, but being able to explain that so I can understand it, I really appreciate it. So, thank you for doing that. Take the roll.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Item 12.02, approval of the permanent appropriation resolution.
Second.
So a lot of times we're approving the appropriations to adjust when we get additional revenue, which can kind of get confusing because this is really a sum of our budget by fund is what appropriations are. So it's not often that we have changes based on increasing our need for expenditures, but with the science of grading, the facility master planning, a couple of these items, larger items that we're approving this month, we're actually needing to increase our appropriation for the general fund. So that's one of the changes. And then, like I mentioned, a lot of the changes come around to getting additional revenue. So this is the time of year where we get our final allocation for all of our federal grants. So we are making adjustments to those as well, so that the total amount is available for us to spend based on that revenue that is anticipated.
Great.
Take the roll, please.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Ms. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
We're going to be entering executive session to consider employment of public employees or officials. We don't expect any action coming out of executive session. Is there a motion?
Second.
Ms. Deeds? Aye. Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Ms. Shaw? Aye. Mr. Wolf?
Aye.